Welcome into the PHNX Cardinals podcast, presented to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star wherever you get your podcast. Johnny Venerable Bo Brock, who's downtown Phoenix at the PHNX headquarters. And man, oh man, what a show we have planned for you today. And we're going to start off the top with Sean Payton watch, baby. 2 or 3 weeks ago, it was just kind of maybe a dream. And now we are getting closer, maybe, for it to come to fruition, we think. But, Bo Brock, there were reports this morning. So there was a report from ESPN that I want to highlight off the top that came out this morning. Real actual journalists, Jeremy Fowler, Dan Graziano, who, by the way, Jeremy Fowler is very connected to this franchise. He was at training camp, are reporting that Sean Payton, not the Cardinals are interested in Sean Payton. No. The bigger piece, Payton is interested right now in 2 potential openings, that being the Los Angeles Chargers, which everybody assumed, and the Arizona Cardinals. And the important piece of this is, Bo, they are looking for a quarterback in an already settled situation rather than waiting to draft and develop a rookie. And then out of the woodwork came other reports, Donnie Druin, SI, other people, our guy Kyle Odegaard, friend of the show, he's got interest. Do you have interest in this report, Bo Brock? Let me ask you that.
Yeah, of course you do, right? I mean, you see this organization and can't get right. It's trending in the wrong direction, to put it as nicely as possible. Sean Payton, next Arizona Cardinals head coach, sounds fantastic. Yeah, sign me up. But as far as how we're going to get there, I mean, that is a whole different conversation, and it's complicated, right? As far as looking at that report and the fact that he has his eye on the organization, well, please, I hope he didn't see he's shielding his eyes at the moment, because it is an absolute just clusterfuck as far as what's going on over here, as far as this coaching staff is going. The trajectory of your franchise quarterback is kind of stunted at the moment. So as far as him having his eye, hopefully it's with an eye of optimism that he could turn things around, absolutely, and that he's the right guy, right? That's what you want to hear from it with Sean Payton. It's exciting to dream about, but that's because dreaming is absolutely free, right? There's no cost to it. But as far as when it comes down to is 2 willing parties, right? And it comes down to some other variables that go into that, as far as getting him out from under his contract in New Orleans, which runs through 2024, firing Kliff Kingsbury, buying him out, and then also paying Sean Payton, backing up the Brinks truck and paying him what it would take, what his commands would be, in a very, as it always is, every offseason, a very competitive coaching market.
Garvey Craig's basically hitting us up with the $1.99 super chat saying,
thank you, Garvey.
He's excited. We're all excited about this. This was a great way to wake up, to have this story be present, because here's the thing. And I told Bo I was going to go in a little bit on a segmented part of not the fan base, but there's just, man, I feel like there's this misconception that, number one, this franchise doesn't deserve Sean Payton,
there, right?
Yeah, like, I'm not here for that.
Somebody you don't want to sit next to tomorrow at the Thanksgiving table.
If you don't want Sean Payton, you are entitled to that opinion, 100%. I respect it. Come here, we'll have a conversation about it. But for the people, media alike, I will call out media that think Sean Payton, the Cardinals don't deserve Sean Payton, they would never do it. Now, I don't want to hear that garbage. If you think about that, keep it to yourself. This is the time to put heat on this franchise. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Michael Bidwill hopefully needs to understand this should be the expectation. If and when you fire Kliff Kingsbury, who's in the midst of just a disastrous season, your goal should be to get the best head coach, to win championships, to win playoff games. If we don't hold this organization accountable, which we love, which we support, which I want everybody to go to the game on Sunday and cheer for Kyler Murray, who potentially is returning, that's what we want. But in the grand scheme of things, you should demand the best of your franchise, because for far too long, and this is part of the reason I feel like PHNX and PHNX Cardinals has been created and cultivated, is we're the voice of the fan base. We're the voice of all of you. And a large population want this to happen. So, of course, Bo and I are going to champion this, because we do believe it is best for the franchise. I am not here for the people that say the Cardinals would never do that and they just kind of throw their hands up. The hell they wouldn't. You need to put pressure on the organization and tell the organization in so many ways that this is what they should be striving for. Because right now, and we're going to get into it later on, it's an embarrassment right now. Your culture is embarrassing. Your coaching staff's an embarrassment. Your front office is a joke. This is the elixir to fix all of that. So I had to get on my high horse quickly here at the top of the show because it frustrates me to see something like this where I can't respect Jeremy Fowler anymore. He's been lockstep with the Kyler situation, missing games dating back to last year, his contract situation. He is in the know with people in the know. And he's coming out and saying that Sean Payton likes the Cardinals. Hey, Cardinals, get on the phone. Get the fucking phone.
I feel your optimism. I really think that there needs to be more about it, and you shouldn't shoot down poo-poo ideas like this. No doubt about it. But when you talk about some of the journalists in this market, I think that it's not so much Stockholm syndrome. They haven't been beaten into just believing and not having hope, and then that's okay. It's because they've covered this team. They know how this team operates. There's a difference between what they'd love to see and what would be the perfect partnership as far as taking Kyler Murray's game to the next level and coupling him with Sean Payton, and that would be the right move, moving off of Kliff Kingsbury. But they see how they've seen this before. Say they're a weather forecaster in Denver, Colorado, and they know that it snows every December, and you want it to be sunny on one day because you're throwing a picnic for some reason. You say, can you just say it's going to be sunny and 71 on Sunday? But they know better than that because this organization has a track record, and unfortunately the track record isn't great. And with all the variables that go into this, I'll push back a little bit because of Sean Payton being under contract through 2024, the draft compensation that it's going to take, the fact that you just signed Kliff Kingsbury to an extension through 2027. You're going to have to buy him out. Huh?
No one told him to do that. That was not a move that
I know, but those are the facts of the situation. And I like I said from the jump, Sean Payton, Arizona Cardinals head coach, fantastic. I'm with, who was it that said, I'm in lockstep with you as far as what that does to me. I agree with you. It does get me a little tingly inside. But as far as what it takes to get it done, there's a lot that has to go into it. You have, like, Sean Payton has his eye on it. On a sinking ship, he's got his eye on it. He's buying a boat, and he sees a ship that's sinking in the ocean. Does he really want to buy that? Why is it sinking?
He took over a franchise that had been through a national disaster in Hurricane Katrina and saved the city overnight with Drew Brees.
He was a coordinator then. He wasn't a proven commodity back then.
Well, I know you're looking at, like, does he think the Cardinals are worth his time and his options? Listen, at the end of the day, you got your franchise quarterback. You've got a stadium. You've got a franchise that hopefully wants to win. Listen, the Cardinals, say what you want about them. They're not cheap. They spend money. They're up against the salary cap every year. They're aggressive, sometimes to a fault. This is not, I don't even know who to compare it to. Like, they're not the Packers. They're not frugal. They're not the Bengals historically. Like, to me, I feel like it's a dysfunctional franchise that wants to win. They just don't know how to win. They need somebody, they need the kingmaker to teach them how to win, kind of like Bruce Arians once upon a time. And the most important factor is Michael Bidwill made an investment in Kyler Murray that you cannot get away from. You can move off of Kliff and you can move off of Keim and eat a little bit of money, but Bo, you've been on the record many times. The amount of money you're paying Keim and Kliff doesn't equal 1 year of Kyler's most expensive year in his contract. So you don't want to flush $230 million down the toilet, $180 million guaranteed on a player that's not getting better, that has reached a ceiling. You know who can help you? The guy who took another 5'10", 5'11" quarterback and won a Super Bowl and went to NFC title game after NFC title game. Also, and I want to put this out there because everybody loves to slobber all over the fact that he's going to be a LA Charger with Justin Herbert. Number one, I would argue Michael Bidwill is much more, aggressive in spending than Dean Spanos is. Go look up the Spanos family and the amount of money they don't and do pay their coaches.
Yeah.
And also, I think Brandon Staley, go look at the Chargers schedule, has a good chance to keep his job. They get the Broncos, they get the Raiders, they get the Rams. I think Brandon Staley is safe, by the way. I think they're going to win 10 games. On top of that, the NFC is down. You want to go and play in the AFC West with Patrick Mahomes? You want to play in a conference with Justin Herbert, with Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen? Or do you want to come to the NFC when it's a lot of dog shit at the top, right? We're going to have Jimmy Garoppolo as the 2 seed this year, Kirk Cousins and Jalen Hurts, who I like, competing for the 1 seed. You can come, and the NFC West, as bad as it's been for the Cardinals this year, you're away from McVay imploding. Stafford's elbow's about to explode. He's getting cut in concussion protocol again. Jimmy G, Trey Lance dilemma. You've got Geno Smith leading the Seahawks. It's much more appealing. Now it is up to Michael Bidwill, though. Michael Bidwill has to. This is probably his biggest venture point since becoming owner of this franchise and president, to say, number one, I got to cut bait with the unhealthy people in my life, meaning Steve Keim and company, and I got to be aggressive. And I put this out here on Twitter today. Assuming that, let's say Brandon Staley does get fired, Tom Telesco, we assume is safe. He may not be, but he's been a good GM for them. He's going to be available to start looking for a head coach immediately. If Michael Bidwill, and this would be a fatal error, fires Steve Keim, but then slow plays the GM search, you're already behind the 8 ball. So if you fire Steve Keim, you have to be ready to hire Adrian Wilson or Quentin Harris or whomever the week of Black Monday. You got to have that ready to go, which I think would behoove you to move off of sooner rather than later. That's my one concern is you've got a team in the Chargers. If they move off Brandon Staley, Telesco would be ready to make a deal. Now, they'd have to abide by the Rooney Rule. They'd have to go out and do some interviews. But I would be worried because we've seen it with the Cardinals so many times. They are last to the dance to hire coaches, in part because they're not always first in line. But now you have a coach who wants to come coach here. So you have to be aggressive, Michael.
Has his eye on it.
Yeah. To me, that's telling you, hey, guys, let's take a meeting. Let's take a meeting. You once let Andy Reid, who had interest in your job, not go to Kansas City first, and we know what happened next.
Right.
That deal, it was 99% done, according to Adam Schefter, and you let him go to Kansas City first, and you fucked that up. Now you have an opportunity to get first in line for a coach that wants to come here and work with your quarterback.
Yeah. Who do you eye is the biggest threat to Sean Payton? You know, and I'll outline them for you. As far as the biggest threats to the Arizona Cardinals upgrading their head coaching spot to Sean Payton would be, and I see 91 Claycomb in there. There is the relationship with the Dallas Cowboys, and we know that they could make the playoffs and they could shit the bed, and Mike McCarthy could be out the next day. Like they could be, and that could probably become his number 1 seed because it fits the criteria, right? As far as having an established quarterback and what Sean Payton's criteria is for his next team potentially. But then you look at the rest of it. It's the Chargers, who, as you outlined, could make their way to the postseason, and Brandon Staley in his second year, that probably would be a bit unfair, despite, ultimately what would be best for the Chargers going forward, and Justin Herbert's progression, maturation, and all that, and his development would be probably Sean Payton, but it'd be probably an unjustified firing.
No fan base, doesn't have their own stadium, is second fiddle to the Rams, especially if McVay's there. Like I know how good Justin Herbert is, but I'm not buying the Chargers right now. I have to be convinced that's going to happen. And I know we got Benjamin Albright and people saying he wants to be in LA. Arizona is close enough. It's on the way. I've read he wants to be in a warm weather climate. I am not convinced he wants to be in the AFC.
Mike Bidwill will fly you himself whenever you want to go to LA and hang out. Let's check out the super chat from our guy Sean Marks up there. He had a question. Or a concern, honest concern, is K1 open to improving under Payton? Yeah, I think absolutely. I think that as far as Kyler Murray goes, he's as competitive as they come. Don't take him being quiet or not as fiery or opinionated as far as the direction of this team this season as him just accepting it, not wanting to get better. I mean, Kyler Murray wants to get better, and I'm sure under the tutelage of Sean Payton and Kyler, seeing what Payton did with another undersized quarterback and Drew Brees and helping him go and become one of the best passers in league history. I mean, that's simple. I don't think Kyler Murray would pass up on an opportunity like that.
Who the fuck are the LA Chargers? They have no fan base. They have not won a Super Bowl, right? Everybody just I mean, Kyler Murray's been to the playoffs. Justin Herbert hasn't. And now I love Justin Herbert. I lived in Eugene, Oregon for a little while. Great guy, great kid. But come on, that the Cardinals were in the playoffs last year. The Chargers, if they don't make the playoffs again, that's how many consecutive years without a playoff berth. And that ownership to me is night and day from Michael Bidwill. I feel like even in the midst of this terrible series of events in this season,
Yeah.
I would take Michael Bidwill over Dean Spanos. Like, come on now.
Spanos as soon as he found out San Diego wasn't going to fully publicly fund the stadium, he just took his ball and ran away to LA and just jumped in on that. Absolutely. Yeah. As far as ownership goes, say what you will about Michael Bidwill. I know he has his skeptics out there. I know he has his haters. I'm not one of them. I think that he does want to win. Here's what I also think. I think that there is a future to where Steve Keim is still the one making the decision, even if it means Kliff Kingsbury has been fired, that he could be making his fourth head coaching hiring.
The only way I'm doing that is if I am convinced, and you could find this out today, you pick up the phone, that Sean Payton would want Steve Keim as his GM. That's the only way I'm doing that, because then Sean Payton will have partial personnel control. Because here's the thing with Keim. I mean, Bruce Arians helped with a lot of the draft and develop process. Mm-hmm. He picked out a lot of those players, right? John Brown, he loved him at the combine. They both like David Johnson. Like, if they can have that kind of marriage, and again, this is not best case scenario, but if I'm willing to eat more years of Keim if I get Sean Payton. Would you agree with that?
I mean,
come on.
I guess, yeah, sure. I mean, it's still not. You're not. Sean Payton was 7-9 until he got a solid draft class a couple of years ago at the to really kind of revitalize things as far as New Orleans. They had a huge draft class. I believe included Lattimore and all those guys.
Mickey Loomis is a better GM than Steve Keim.
For sure. That's part of it. I mean, that was part of the success there in the Big Easy. But I think that, like BA, Payton would be more involved as far as the draft process, as far as the scouting process, as far as, who knows if Keim would have the ability to retain his scouts that have been helping him along the way as far as his last couple drafts. So no, I mean, I think you would accept it. And then, you see what the working relationship is for a season. And then if it's something you can move forward with, then yeah, do it. But look, that, like I said, as far as this Sean Payton thing and the reports today from ESPN and then, CBS on top of that and all the other outlets jumping in on this, as far as the Cardinals, where it is on the to use a football analogy, I mean, the punt just got inside the 10. You're starting the ball on your own 5-yard line. You have a long way to go to get Sean Payton in your building as your next head coach.
Yeah. I mean, we've got 6 more games to go through. What if Kliff Kingsbury wins 5 of them, right? What if this team responds? Now, I think a lot of this is with the subheader that what we've seen from the team is non-competitive, especially Monday night. And you consider a lot of their opponents down the stretch, like it takes the other shoe to fall, which is the team saying, I'm out on Kliff Kingsbury. And if they haven't said that already, and we've got coaches being fired for horrific reasons in Mexico City, which we're going to get to here in a second. But I want to remind everybody, right now is the best time, if you haven't dabbled already, Underdog Fantasy. It's where it's at. I am sick of the year-long fantasy apps. Can't deal with it. I prefer one and done. Let me get after it with 5 of my friends, and the highest scoring squad wins that cold, hard cash. You can dabble in NBA tonight. You can dabble in Thanksgiving football tomorrow. It is your preference. Here's our preference, though. Use that promo code PHNX, and you're going to get up to $100 for your first deposit, matching it. Sign up with promo code PHNX, and how about this? All users, new and current, can take advantage of a one-time offer plus 100 times boost. Make a pick 5 entry, include the higher or lower on Dak Prescott's passing yards, for instance. Enter $1 max on your pick'em entry. If all 5 of your picks hit, guess what? You win $100. It's fantastic. Dak is the only NFL pick needed. This boost could be paired with others outside on Thanksgiving Thursday. It's easy to get started. Check out UnderdogFantasy.com. Download the app today wherever you get your apps. Use that promo code PHNX. Get your Hyundai and get winning on Underdog Fantasy.
Sean Payton absolutely would be an upgrade at the Arizona Cardinals head coaching position. Let's talk about upgrading your living room, your dining room, wherever you hang out in your house, your bedrooms. if you missed out on getting things pimped out for Thanksgiving, if you're having friends and family over, you probably didn't do yourself any services as far as making things look better. Don't make that mistake again. Get things ready for the holidays with more furniture. You're going to want to buy the best furniture in the Valley from More Furniture to make your home look great. Save up to 50% while doing it. 50% off during their Black Friday sale at your local Arizona More Furniture showroom. Check out morefurniture.com. You're not sold on it? Check out any of our studio shows. You'll see the beautiful furniture that we're hanging out on. Also, when we're watching games here, we're kicking back on these beautiful, comfortable loungers. More Furniture has it all. Morefurniture.com. Preview daily deals all this week leading up to Black Friday at the end of this week after you stuff your face tomorrow on Thanksgiving.
I'm looking forward to eating a lot. It's going to be a fun day. Cardinals have not had a series of fun days. Before we get to that, I want to get to this comment here. Nightingale Sunset. I just don't see Michael, meaning Michael Bidwill, looking through with the right lens. Hard Knocks painted him like he sees this as a lost season of injuries and a hard schedule, which are both true.
Mm-hmm.
Rattle off 3 wins out of 6, and they both stay. And Nightingale, I agree with that. I think Bo and I are on the same page. If they get to 7 wins, feels like, depending on how they do it, they could be safe. I also think Hard Knocks is a production in part with the team, with the organization. That's been made clear now. So he is not going to want to look like somebody who's not in support of his head coach and his GM. He doesn't want to come across that way. And really, he shouldn't. I mean, you want to try to be professional. And I think the Cardinals have a good opportunity with potentially the next head coach because they've got a mindset outside of Steve Wilkes. Like, I give guys ample time to succeed. And if they don't succeed, then we'll reassess. But, Kliff Kingsbury, a lot of people thought he should have been fired after the second year. And Michael gave him another year and they went to the playoffs, but then they folded. Then he extended him. So on the surface, like, in front of the camera, Michael is doing what he needs to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, here's the reality, though. I mean, you can look at the injuries. I mean, Kyler Murray, as your starting quarterback, was 3-6, and he was paired up with his head coach who handpicked him, and that's the duo going forward as far as the team goes. And the fact that they just horrendously underperformed, it has to have you concerned. I mean, you want those two guys in that building to be able to elevate, regardless of what the situation is. And if you don't want your head coach and your quarterback to only be able to perform when you're dealt 4 aces. Like, you have to be able to make a hand here. Use a poker analogy. I mean, and they just haven't at all. They've horrendously underachieved, and they're going to have to figure it out. And the people that were skeptical about Kliff Kingsbury, I think a lot of things have been just a little bit. They've been highlighted, and people are seeing like why they had their reservations about Kliff Kingsbury and were shocked when he got that contract extension back in February. I mean, as far as him being a long-term solution as far as this head coaching spot goes.
Well, and to your point, Bo, like, and you've been able to operate with Kyler Murray making no money and you needed perfect. It's not going to be perfect in a year, 2, 3 years down the line when he is making $40+ million a year. That's the scariest thing is your roster. Everybody from an outside perspective always said Cardinals have a ton of talent, and that's true. Think about the receivers they tried in and out, the defensive personnel, and they're still not winning games. And then Kyler Murray has regressed this year. Imagine what it's going to be like when you can't go out and buy a DeAndre Hopkins, and you can't go out and trade for Hollywood Brown and extend him, or buy a Zach Ertz. Number one, you're going to have to hit on your picks, which Keim has shown an inability to do. And number two is like Kliff Kingsbury. Who is he developed offensively outside of K1? Who is he elevated, right? To, you buy a James Conner, but have you developed a running back? Have you developed a secondary receiving option internally? No, you haven't. Trey McBride, who was the best tight end in college football last year, has barely seen the field from a receiving standpoint this year. That if I'm Kliff Kingsbury, those are things that I need to be able to prop up as rationale to why I should be kept around. It's just going to get harder and harder. I know the schedule this year was brutal, but every year it's different. Plus the NFC West, I'm sorry, it's not as good as people thought. And you're still in third place? That's unacceptable. What else is unacceptable? It's what went down in Mexico City over the weekend. Of course, reports coming out that former now offensive line coach Sean Kugler dismissed from the team. Bo, you had an opportunity to speak with Kliff Kingsbury today. What's the latest?
Yeah, Kliff Kingsbury basically said he couldn't say anything more, comment anymore as far as what's been reported by AZ Central, ESPN.com, as far as the details of this case, because of it's still ongoing and they're still in the details gathering part of this thing, and there might be a legal process going on. What was reported by Josh Weinfuss in ESPN.com was Sean Kugler was accused of allegedly groping a woman and reached out to the Mexico City police. And then the Mexico City police reached out to the Arizona Cardinals. And then their next move was sending Sean Kugler home on Monday morning before the team played its game against the San Francisco 49ers on Monday night. So just a complete disaster.
It's a horrible look.
Yeah. And Kliff, wouldn't speak on it. And you understand that to an extent. We talked to Kelvin Beachum today, said he still respects Sean Kugler. He talked to him yesterday, but at the same time, this is a business. You have to be professional. If you can't do those things, you can lose your spot in this business. So as far as the reaction to it, we're finally kind of getting that. But as far as like concrete details on what went down, we don't have that. As far as the coaching staff goes, you were looking at this and the shuffling that was going down. Obviously Kliff Kingsbury is your play caller, your offensive line, your run game coordinator is no longer with your organization. So his assistant offensive line coach and Brian Natkin, he gets elevated to basically your interim offensive line coach. And then as far as the run game, it looks like that's gonna belong to Spencer Whipple, and you'll recognize that name because he's the guy that stepped in for Kliff Kingsbury when he had COVID against the Browns last season. So Whipple's kind of the main guy for the run game right now, but Kliff kind of said they're going to work in concert as far as just creating that run game, what they want to do on a weekly basis as far as that goes. And also they're going to get help in a couple different areas from some other assistant coaches, but it really is left this coaching staff in flux. And when you look at the offensive line overall, I mean, that's been the biggest problem area all season long. Johnny, our guy Howard Balzer outlines that in his article about Kugler, and he's outlined that in previous articles at gophnx.com. Most of those articles are unlocked. I highly recommend you check it out. Howard's great work. How this has been a group that had so much continuity coming back from 2021 to 2022, where you were returning 4 of your 5 starters and putting in Will Hernandez, who had a relationship with Sean Kugler in college. And it just seemed like it was going to work out. But, Rodney Hudson, who we thought was going to retire, hasn't been healthy. Justin Pugh hasn't been healthy. The only guy that's been healthy has been Kelvin Beachum. And it's just been a disaster. And now things get worse because now you lose the guy that was probably the most well-respected coach in that locker room. And it's just a bigger mess on top of this organization that just can't get out of its own way.
Yeah, and there's some chatter here in the comments. Bo and I just want to address something real quick. Like, Sean Kugler is a really good offensive line coach. Yeah. And we come at it from a perspective of this is a big loss for the team, but it's a necessary loss for the organization because of what happened. So you need to contextualize both of those things. It's a bad loss because he's making the most out of this offensive line group, but you absolutely cannot keep him employed. No, because now you've got 2 instances of sexual assault potentially against women in a less than a calendar year for offensive coaches. That's a trend. That's a gross trend for this franchise. And I just want to say something. Can you imagine if you're Roger Goodell and or Michael Bidwill and you hear that you're trying to be ambassadors for the NFL and you go to Mexico City and your offensive line coach gropes someone to the point where Mexico authorities, I should say, had to contact the Cardinals because there was an incident. Somebody reported Sean Kugler. This was not, they're all hanging out and Kliff witnesses something and then they make a judgment call. No. Authorities were contacted and he was promptly fired. What an embarrassing scene for your franchise to think that you're a buttoned-up organization. You're in Hard Knocks right now. You want to showcase your culture. And this is the kind of bullshit you're doing behind the scenes. And for people who are like, well, you got to give them more time to get this right. No, you've had enough time, man. The product on the field stinks. And now your coaches are acting completely out of turn to the point where they should not be allowed to coach again. That is just it's an embarrassment for Michael Bidwill. And in my opinion, something that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. Like, as a culture, organizational issue, you have a problem.
Big time. Big time. I mean, you have now two instances where two of your assistant coaches have been in issues with women. You know,
Yeah.
you had your running backs coach with an incident that happened at, was it a
Had
Walmart
charges,
or Costco?
domestic
Yeah,
charges.
domestic charges that were levied against him in Indiana that they didn't do anything about until those charges were made public in training camp in August. I mean, that's a huge, gross. I don't know why they didn't address it until they were forced to. And then this, it sounds horrible. And they've made the right move. We're quick as far as getting Sean Kugler out of there and putting him on, getting his one-way ticket out of Mexico City. But man, I mean, you're right. I mean, as far as just not performing on a national stage, not being able to grow your brand at all, and then doing the complete opposite is just it's a huge letdown. And Michael Bidwill needs to tighten things up, and that's an understatement. Like, he needs to tighten things up and tell these guys to knock this shit off and just focus on doing their job, be professionals, be better men. I mean,
look in the mirror. Like, seriously, at the end of the year, and we've had people come at us. Bo's at the press conference every day. Bo asks difficult questions. There will be difficult questions to be answered. Black Monday, should they fire Kliff Kingsbury? Should they fire Steve Keim? But we'll keep the same energy throughout. Like, a win this weekend does not change anything. We want them to win. We support them. But this is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And it's a big reason why the frustration right now, like, it's not a good place to be if you're an owner, that you're dealing with this kind of garbage off the field. Your team isn't succeeding, and your fan base wants your GM and your head coach fired. Like, that's a tough place to be if you're Michael Bidwill, and you have the power to change it now. And I think he will. I think, knowing Michael Bidwill, he will make the necessary steps to correct this. But
I'm skeptical. I'll see what happens as far as, if there is a Black Monday. We've seen it already just 4 years ago. In January of 2019, they decided to move off of Wilkes, and they said they're going to hold themselves accountable. Bidwill and Steve Keim made the wrong decision. They're going to look at themselves in the mirror, and then they kind of held that press conference to kind of an allotted time.
Yeah,
they didn't really answer any questions of where they took their missteps or what they were going to do to hold themselves accountable and be better. And then they go make this kind of against the grain or outside the box hire of a failed college coach, of Kliff Kingsbury, who's 35-40 in the Big 12. He was fired from his alma mater. He was going to be the offensive coordinator at a Pac-12 school in USC. That was his job. And then he gets this head coaching position out of nowhere from the Arizona Cardinals. This team that said, we made a mistake on the last one. This is our solution to it. And it was like a complete overcorrection from a defensive guy in Wilkes to an offensive guy in Kingsbury. It's really wild. It is crazy. So I'll be curious to see if they're going to be more transparent and answer more questions. I'll reserve judgment until it happens, but I'm pretty skeptical that they will, that it's not just the same thing.
I love this comment. Arizona Animal saying, last Black Monday, Bidwill attacked the media. I don't quite remember that, but he does say, stay safe, Bo. He wants you to stay safe.
I appreciate that, Arizona Animal. I think I'll be all right. Be all right. I don't remember. I don't remember in what way he attacked the media. I'm sure he wasn't. I'm sure they were really disappointed with probably arguably one of the worst seasons in this franchise's history, and that their horrible offseason of going out and getting Sam Bradford and then trading up to draft Josh Rosen and hiring Mike McCoy and Steve Wilkes and changing up a defense that was decent from a 3-4 to a 4. I mean, the missteps were endless, and they weren't too keen on taking questions about it.
I do feel like with Mr. B, when it's off the field, that raises eyebrows. Like, you don't want to be known as the Washington Commanders with Dan Snyder. It's one thing to be awful on the field, but goodness, all this, when it comes back to you as an owner and your leadership and you as the president, and when your coaches are acting like this, and this comes back on you, that's when you basically say, I gotta start over. I gotta fix this. It's not a schematics thing. It's not a roster thing, personnel. I don't know who I can trust. I need to start over because our football operations is broken right now, top to bottom. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I want to remind everybody, Thanksgiving is tomorrow. I'm so excited. Not only am I excited to stuff my face, I'm ready to stuff my bet sheet on DraftKings. It's the best day of the year to gamble because it's universally accepted that we're going to sit on the couch and watch football. And you might as well dabble with DraftKings. Right now, you can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. You can use that promo code PHNX. You can place any $5 bet on any NFL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Think about that. $5 gets you $150 in free bets if your team wins. And again, we're not talking spread. We're talking money line action only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Use that promo code PHNX. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. I am tempted. Detroit Lions looking good. Dan Campbell, there's a grown-up. Love a grown-up like Dan.
Big meathead head coach. Also on Hard Knocks, the earlier one in the summer, the training camp preseason one. You got to dabble on any World Cup on Thanksgiving or maybe the next day? U.S. is back on the pitch Friday.
Well, the only way I do that is I watch PHNX Bets Daily when I'm not on it. And even when I'm on it, I tap in. Shane Diefenbach is the guy when it comes to World Cup. He and Sean had great insight. Check out the show from earlier today. I do not know soccer, so I'm not going to pretend like I do, but I lean on those guys.
Those guys absolutely just dialed in.
Yep.
You can be dialed in from our Four Peaks World Cup watch party on Black Friday. That's the next time U.S. is going to take the pitch. They're taking on England. We're trying to turn back the clock to 1776 and win another big one against England. That's match day watch along PHNX at Four Peaks. Enjoy beer specials, giveaways, guest appearances, and more. $3 kit lifters, $3 Wow Wheat pints, hosting every U.S. and Mexico World Cup match. 22-foot screen. Yeah, I'm not joking when I say that. It's 22 feet. It's all its glory. Next U.S. match is Black Friday with the festivities starting at 11 a.m. Then you got Mexico versus Argentina with Messi. It's the next day at 11 a.m. on Saturday. Atmosphere was absolutely electric. Incredible so far. Register for your free tickets, and you're not going to want to show up without registering because it's going to be tough. It's wall-to-wall people. You get yourself a seat. You get your buns and a chair. You get the delicious food and beer and atmosphere, and you don't have to pay for it. All you do is register for free right now. Just click the link in the description, and you can get into any of our U.S. or Mexico watch-alongs with PHNX and Four Peaks.
Love it. Love all of you. I love this comment here. Shout out to y'all at PHNX, though. You guys keep it real. Bickley, meaning Dan Bickley, who we love, and you guys are the only ones who are calling it straight up right now. Well, listen. We love the team site. This is not the team site. This is Cardinal celebratory when it needs to be, and this is also Cardinal therapy when it needs to be. We're here to keep it real because it would be disrespectful to you, our fellow fandom, if we didn't keep it real. We're gonna keep it real now with Kyler Murray, who, thank God, Bo, looks like he is on the mend and, dare I say, on track to play this Sunday against the LA Chargers.
Yeah, a couple things at play here with Kyler Murray. First, we heard from head coach Kliff Kingsbury. He gave us an update on Kyler Murray. This is what he had to say.
He looked good today, so I'm feeling good about the chances. I think if we didn't let him, we may have a fist fight in my office at this point. So I feel like he's definitely trending in the right direction.
That's what you want to hear. That Kyler Murray is willing to throw hands if he can't get on the playing field for the third straight week. So it looks like that. We followed up, asked Kyler, what he gave us a lot less as far as words. He just said, yeah, I feel good. And that's all I need to hear from Kyler. And then you look at the injury report that came out post-practice. It was a closed walkthrough, but for the first time in weeks, Kyler Murray was a full participant in practice. Colt McCoy is limited. Kyler's full. I think you can pretty much, if he's in on your fantasy team, go ahead. You could start him, and I think he's going to be in the lineup come Sunday. It seems like all those lights are turning green. Now, as far as Marquise Hollywood-Brown, Johnny, still day-to-day. We'll see what the deal is with him, and if he is in the lineup, Kliff said that he could be on a pitch count, could be a limited snap for Hollywood-Brown, and then you've got the two wide receivers, your two slot receivers on Monday that got injured. Rondell Moore, pretty much, Kliff alluded to him being out with the groin injury, and then they'll figure out what his status is going forward. And then you've got Greg Dortch, who injured his thumb, won't require surgery on his thumb, but he's going to be a guy that it's going to come down to what he can kind of take pain-wise. What's his pain threshold? And we've seen so far with Greg Dortch, I mean, he had a knee contusion. Yeah. He's a guy that if he has a pulse, he's going to be out there on the playing field. He's
the anti-Rondell Moore. I'm just going to say that. Yes. Rondell Moore, a.k.a. the Glass Man, not expected to play this weekend. That's a disappointing occurrence in and of itself. Greg Dortch, professional football player, ass kicker, comes off the bench, has his first 100-yard game on national TV against the number 1 defense in the NFL. I would imagine number 83 is at least suited up, ready to go. So then you've got DeAndre Hopkins, you've got A.J. Green, you've got maybe Hollywood Brown, and you've got somewhat of Greg Dortch. And then they also added one of my faves, Pharaoh Cooper, back into the fold. If you guys remember, Pharaoh Cooper, once upon a time during Kyler's rookie season, was really productive for this team. So I don't know. It feels like this weekend, it's going to be Kyler Murray needing to be Kyler Murray to be able to get this dub against the Chargers. But, Bo, you mentioned it earlier, like it's not going to be perfect. We might need a throwback game of Hopkins and Kyler Murray dominating, James Conner on the ground, maybe a little more Trey McBride this week. But I think for everybody waiting, like, well, we were supposed to have this receiving core of X, Y, and Z. That's not going to happen, at least not this year, maybe not under this regime. But you have DeAndre Hopkins. Go look around. Look at Baltimore's receiving core. Look at some of these other receiving cores around the NFL. Like the Cardinals have enough talent to score points. It's about execution or lack thereof. And then you couple that with an offensive line that right now is below average.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and we'll see. We saw the left guard spot. It's become a work share between Rashard Coward and Cody Ford. They find some more consistency there. You know, are you going to continue to move forward at the right guard spot with Cito Smith, who's played the last couple games, and then you've got Beachum, who's been the guy there, and then we'll see what happens with DJ Humphries in his back. But it's just nice to get, because I think the theme of the season now becomes, or the goal of the season is to get Kyler Murray back on track, right? I mean, as far as rebranding your franchise quarterback on Hard Knocks, giving him some insight into who he is, make him, more likable, turn him into a less polarizing figure, at least here. And hopefully will help nationally, because nationally he's panned all the time. It's unfortunate, but get your quarterback back on track. Take away any debate on whether or not, those Colt McCoy truthers, they need to go away and just form their own little club. It needs to be small and minute, and make sure that everybody knows that Kyler Murray is franchise caliber quarterback that had a slump to start the season and is able to kind of figure it out and be who everybody thought he was when he signed that big, lucrative, mega million extension.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think Kyler Murray and his development, we need to be able to go into this offseason feeling 100% great about Kyler Murray. And even, I think people who have listened to us for some time, Bo, know we're staunch supporters of Kyler, understand that his growth is not where it needs to be. He needs to be better. And so if there are such things as small victories, that's one of them before the end of the year. Of course, we want this team to win every game possible, but in the grand scheme of things, with what we've seen, like this front office, or excuse me, this coaching staff right now, it is what it is. Like the team's 5-12 in their last 17 games. We don't magically expect that to turn around.
That's not a sample size.
No, that's a full season.
Yeah.
And it's also this Kliff Kingsbury thing in the second half of the year. If we thought it was bad in the first half, what do we expect now that everybody has tape on this offense and you've got so many changing parts? Somebody just put in the comments, what about Robbie Anderson? I forgot he was even on the team. He didn't have a catch with this team yet, and they traded away
33 snaps Monday night, and he didn't have a catch.
Yeah, that's a microcosm of their
snaps,
season.
Johnny, he's got one catch for minus a couple yards.
Yeah, had a crucial drop 2 weeks ago in their loss. So
let me say this.
Yeah.
The days of Steve Keim winning on trades, think about his last few trades.
Bad.
He's over for his last 3.
Desperation trade. Well, Cody Ford, to me, that's fine. I don't mind. He's playing now and whatever. But yes, the Trayvon Mullen trade.
He can't even win the job outright at left guard. They signed Rashard Coward off the streets. He can't win that job.
That one didn't bother me, but the Trayvon Mullen one's been a disaster.
They're both elk, and both of those guys, you don't know enough about to where you want to resign them. Do you bring them back? They're both going to be free agents.
Well, not if Somebody asked me the other day, is Will Hernandez back next year? Well, probably not, because his offensive line coach is gone and gone for good. If Steve Keim's not the GM, I think everything's on the table. I think this roster could be gutted if there's a new general manager. And speaking of that, I wanted to point this out. So this tweet came while we're doing the show, Bo. Somebody sent this to me. This is from Jordan at Pro Football Focus, who does good work covering college football. He says, if the Arizona Cardinals want to go after Sean Payton, who has expressed that being on the same page with his new front office is a priority in his job selection, they should try and lure Jeff Ireland to their front office. He is the assistant GM in New Orleans. So take that for what it's worth.
Perfect.
But it sounds like, I mean, that's somebody who's available, right?
Yeah.
He reports to Mickey Loomis. So
I just learned his name just now. I'm his biggest fan.
Hey, Jeff Ireland, Paradise Valley, it's gorgeous. I know a home that could become available if you're interested. You know, it's got a bunch of natural lighting. It's got some Batman posters. It's super nice. Let's get to some more of these comments here. What happens with J.J. Watt? Does he stay? Does he retire? Does he move on? I think this is J.J. Watt's last year in Arizona.
Yeah,
I think J.J. Watt potentially could retire. He's playing really well. And here's the shitty part, Cardinals update, is outside last year, he got hurt. He's held up his end of the bargain. Like, he's going to have potentially 10 sacks this year. He's been a tremendous teammate, a great leader. The Cardinals have failed J.J. Watt, at least this year, in my opinion, because he's playing good football.
Yeah.
He's everything that you asked for. It's everybody else that's kind of falling apart at the seams.
He's got 5.5 sacks. I mean,
he leads the team in sacks.
I don't think anybody anticipated that. After you saw that his game transcends the box score, but he's been more than just a disruptive guy opening up pass rush lanes for other players. He knew that he had to be a guy to get home and get the quarterback on the turf because the edge isn't providing that, right? So we got another super chat here from Jason, right? Get Sean Payton now. No ifs, ands, or buts. And then apparently we've got a brand new GM. We just found out about him. We love him. I mean, what a guy. Jeff. Good old Jeff Ireland.
I've always been a fan. I've always been lockstep with him. Always been his biggest supporter. But can we get some contacts for Jeff Ireland? Maybe get him on the show.
Sure.
I think that would be beneficial. Hey, Jeff, you're with another franchise, but let's talk to you about a job that's not open yet.
Do you like to draft linebackers in the first round?
Let's go back.
Okay, fine. You can still come if you get Sean Payton.
The draft history for the Saints, very good, by the way. It's edge rushers, it's offensive linemen, it's occasionally a cornerback in Marshawn Lattimore. They've been a finely tuned machine.
Yeah.
When Sean Payton has adequate quarterback play, they go to the playoffs. I mean, some of those years with Breeze, I think people forget his arm was falling off. And they got to 10, 11 wins. Yeah, the NFC South wasn't great, but you had Carolina and Rivera in their heyday making some noise, right? So, and they were always physical against Brady. That first year he was there. But I think this right now, Cardinal fans are in the mindset like whomever replaces Keim, we're going to give that person a chance. We just want something different. We've seen the same thing since 2013. It's been 10 years. Give us something new. Right? Because we don't know what it's like to have draft picks come in and hit their first year and play well. And the Arizona Animal working on a Jeff Ireland statue as we speak. Aren't we all? Something we would love to see.
Yeah, I love to see it. Arizona Cardinals. I mean, we're just off a few, like he's eyeing the Cardinals. All of this was gifted to us today.
And you know why? You know why he's doing that? Because of one player. And everybody who is ready to write this young player off, there is no way he'd consider the Cardinals without Kyler Murray. No matter what you think of Kyler Murray, he needs to be a better leader. He's an introvert. He's not your cup of tea. Sean Payton would not, because he's not considering these other openings. I had Zach from DMVR, our guy, reach out to me today, and he said, did that report say anything about the Broncos? And I said, no. And it's because they're saddled with Russell Wilson. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're cooking fucking hungry, man. We got filet mignon, right? That's why he's considering because look, the young quarterbacks, you're unsure. We're unsure about all these young quarterbacks that were taken 2 years ago, Trevor Lawrence, this, that, and the other. And then you don't want, Carolina, Dan Graziano said in a chat today, Carolina would be interested, but they're not going to trade within the division. They have no quarterback to sell them on. The Cardinals are in a unique position where they have a quarterback that could win for the next decade plus, along with Herbert. That's why they're in this. That's why that he's even considering this opening should it become available. And that's because of not Kyler Murray, the prospect, not what he did at Oklahoma, Bo, but what he's done in the NFL and what Payton thinks he can do.
And we'll get to the super chat in just a second, but Drew Brees, after he's kind of let go by the Chargers.
Yeah. Not kind of. They were like, goodbye. We're not interested.
I mean, they did Sean Payton's boy dirty. Let's factor that into this equation, right? They did Drew Brees dirty, looking for new spots. So did the Dolphins. Didn't Nick Saban pick Dante Culpepper over Drew Brees?
Now they said that his people flunked Drew Brees' medical. They didn't pass his medical.
But Drew Brees goes to New Orleans, right? Mm-hmm. Post Katrina, right? They needed something, right? They needed a boost, and they got it. Boy, did they get it from Sean Payton and Drew Brees and that team. Drew Brees was 27 years old his first year for the Saints. Kyler Murray, next August, 26 years old.
Turn your thinking caps on. Connect the dots. Save this organization.
Let's see what our super chat is from Jason. Really appreciate it. $1.99 super chat. Am I sick of this regime? Finally, I'm sick of things being so tough for this organization. Like it just seems like on the playing field, off the playing field, things are never easy for this team. I mean, you look back at this offseason, it was just a herky jerky stop and go. Play this game in the public eye, in the media. Reports about Kyler, reports about the Cardinals. And then you see this season transpire, and it's been a bust at 4-7. I mean, I think a lot of people are just tired of it. I mean, heard local radios say that this might even be more of a trying season than going 3-13 in 2018.
I think 100%, because at least then you could say, don't have the coach, don't have the quarterback, moving on, cleaning house. This is like, you had expectations, and I put this in the rundown, and I'm glad you reminded me, Bo. So before the season, or maybe I didn't put it in the rundown, but I think I can get it off memory. Before the season, the Cardinals had an over 53% chance to make the playoffs this year. We talked about it in Awesome all offseason. Like, they weren't making a bunch of moves, but Vegas still thinks they're a playoff team. They have gone from 58% to now 4%. That is an utter disaster. At least in 2018, you made a bunch of short-term moves. Bradford was signed, for 1 year. You were able to pivot off of Rosen, get a second, even though you blew that on Andy Isabella. Like that was fixable. This is like, you gave contract extensions to 3 people that 2 out of the 3 we've basically made up our minds about, and then the quarterback people are taking shots at left and right. Not this podcast, but others, and you're signing. I mean, you re-signed DJ Humphries. Think about all the extensions they started giving out, right? You traded for Hollywood Brown, Kyler's best friend, and you got to pay Hopkins $30 million next year. These are heavy weighted decisions, and then you've got all the off the field garbage, and the team's not any good. It gets compounded brick by brick. I'm sure it's weighing on Michael Bidwill. And listen, I want everybody to go to the games and support the team. So does Bo. So does everybody here at PHNX Cardinals. You don't think it guts Michael Bidwill to look at the stands and see the opposing team's jerseys in the stands? And it will be especially disheartening this Sunday if we see a bunch of baby blue in the stands when the Chargers don't even fill up their own stadium. Yeah, I could not believe the amount of Seahawk fans that were here for that game when they beat the Cardinals a couple weeks ago. There were so many Seahawk fans at tailgates in the stadium. That is when you really start to, if you're an owner, sit back and think, what have I done? What is going on? I thought I had something here. And he does.
What's really crazy about it is where the expectations were going into the season and where they've gone. And as far how far it's fallen off a cliff.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to even say that, but I mean, it fell off a cliff. Spelled with a K.
Log that away, producer Liam. Future graphic in and with somebody's let go at the end of the year. There was zero margin for error with the way things were set up. It was so volatile, and they've been walking on thin ice all season long, and finally
they broke through. And if you're Michael Bidwill, you really hope that he's got a good idea of what truly went wrong. And if he's willing, is he willing to fix it? Is he willing to do the things necessary to fix it? That's a big question. That's a huge question that goes into all of this as far as what the future of this organization is going to look like. Can they quickly turn things around? Or is it going to be just painstaking for the next couple of years?
Yeah, we're going to find out. But I'll tell you what's not painstaking is to sign up for a new diehard membership at gophnx.com. I want to tell you guys, so we have unveiled a new model at gophnx.com where 90% of the content is free, including the fabulous work of our guy, Howard Balzer. But if you want to become a diehard, all you have to do, sign up, join today. It's just under $60. Let me tell you what you're going to get. You're going to get a free hat or t-shirt of your choice, not as a one-time offer. Every single year you re-up, you get a free hat or a t-shirt. You get access to our premium diehard content, including our member Discord. Come and hang with Bo and I, yell at us, scream, whatever. We're ready to be there for you. Plus 20% off all the merchandise, no matter when, no matter how long. A diehard member card. Again, exclusive diehard gear. Check it out. There's so many great support write-ups on the diehard page at phnx.com. What the diehards are saying. So if I can't sell you on it, let them do it. And then we have a huge Black Friday sale going on at the PHNX merchandise locker happening in just 2 days. I'm talking shirts for next to nothing. Premium shirts. I got the point guard shirt on, PHNX cap. So if you think, I want some of that gear, I just don't know if I'm ready to pull the trigger, this is the time to do it, friends.
I need to upgrade my shirt. I got to get a PHNX locker shirt.
You do.
Embarrassing that I'm not repping the brand today. But I will say, if you guys enjoyed the show, there's more coming. Not tomorrow, later tonight. As soon as Hard Knocks wraps, we're going to do our recap show.
What that ought to be.
A little behind the curtain here. I don't think we're getting a guest tonight. I don't know if it has anything to do with last week, but
that's okay. You be our guest, everyone here.
Absolutely. You guys killed it you crushed it in the chat. If you missed the Sean Payton stuff, just refresh this video, watch from the very beginning. We get into that conversation, or download the podcast wherever you find podcasts. Leave a review, does wonders for us. Say how much you like Johnny in his hat and how he trimmed up his beard and how he looks like an absolute snack these days. And then you also just leave that 5-star review. We appreciate it. Do that for us. And and we'll talk some Hard Knocks tonight.
The stronger we become, the stronger you become, the stronger your voice is with this franchise. Because we are here as your advocates. We talk about, people always ask me, how do you guys decide what we talk about? You guys dictate what we talk about. Bo's on the ground at the franchise every day, asking the tough questions. And we just come and have a group hang. $1.99 super chat from Jason. Does Bidwill listen to any of these podcasts? Great way to end the show. We're going to make him listen. We're going to make everybody in that organization flip on PHNX Cardinals, because it is your premier elite Arizona Cardinal podcast.
We're going to hack the FAA. Somehow we're going to get it into his headset there on his PJ, on his private jet. He's supposed to get directions on where to land, and he's just going to get PHNX Cardinals in his headset.
Stream it right through. Thank you guys so much. It's been a banger of a show. Come back for a little nightcap tonight, PHNX After Dark, Hard Knocks. Come and we don't know what's going to be on the show, but we know we're going to be here right around 9 p.m. Your after show. Be there, be square. Bye, everybody.